Hello everyone, it's Lana. Today I'm going to be talking about my Pleasantview. Yeah, I know I've been meaning to do this video for a long time and I talked about my Pleasantview a lot, but it's finally here. I'm 8.5 rounds deep in, let's say, and in terms of years it's about 50, 60, 55-ish years. So you can see that a lot of time have passed. And all the adult primates are dead, sadly. But yeah, all of the primate kids and teenagers are elders now, and they have their own kids. Some of them even have grandkids at this point. I would be honest, Pleasantview is not my most favorite neighborhood. My most favorite neighborhood is actually Strangetown. So this Pleasantview is like my playground for trials and errors, and I had a lot of trials and errors. So let's start, shall we? I should probably start with the Broke family because they are least complicated and there's not a lot of them. Well, actually there's a lot of them, but it's another story. So we will start with this Broke household that are not Brokes anymore. They are actually Melon. Okay, we all know the drill, that as soon as you start playing with the Broke household, you are greeted with Brandy getting her first baby bump. And in my Pleasantview, she gave birth to a beautiful baby, Renata Broke. She looks kind of like Skip, but she also got a lot of resemblance with Brandy. And after she gave birth to Renata, she and Darren kind of started seeing each other. Let's say. At first, they were hurt from recent tragedies in their lives because they're both widowed and they were kind of afraid to start a new relationship. But in the end, love wins and they quickly married and moved to Darren's house. You can see they had a little bit of expansion here. Dirk and Dustin had to share a room because shortly after Renata became a child, they had another baby. Hello, this is Delilah. And she's absolutely gorgeous. She's beautiful. I really love how she came out. She looks like a perfect mix of Darren and Brandy. Although, I don't know if you noticed, but her personality is exactly like Darren's. She is what you can call a second mix. Second mix is when a baby gets exactly the same personality as the father of the baby. You know, I wasn't really bothered with this after all, because I wanted their baby to inherit Brandy's eyes, and as soon as I saw that Delilah was born with Brandy's eyes, I was like, I had to accept this baby. I had to, no matter what. So I did, and this is Delilah. And Delilah grew up in a very loving, very hectic and full household because she had not 3 but 4 siblings living in the same roof with her, and as you can guess, that's a lot. She and Renata actually became best friends like really quickly. Renata been wanting to have a sister for a long time, and when Delilah was born, she was just so happy to finally have a sister. Delilah even still got this photo of them too, being goofy in the photo booth. Okay, let's get back to the story. I got a bit carried away. So when Delilah grew up, she actually followed Darren's footsteps and became an artist. She's unemployed, but she makes money from her drawings, and she haven't mastered her creativity skill yet, but all she does pretty much is just draw. And I usually sell her drawings. I don't think I have any of her drawings here. But yeah, and one day when she went shopping, almost like right away she became an adult, she met this guy. This is Calvin Melon, and they are freaking triple bolters. What the hell? She met her triple bolt chemistry person right away after she became an adult. Like, what are the chances? And they had 2 children. One of them is Peyton. Hello there. So this is Peyton. He looks a lot like his dad, but I kind of see some Delilah in him. And little Kaya. Let me show you to the people. They both got brown eyes from Calvin, but that's okay. I mean, I got plenty of gray eyes in my Pleasantview already, but it's just with Delilah that I wanted a gray eyes with her. So, because you cannot physically fit such a large family as Dreamers / Brokes in one house, I decided to split them. Because eventually Dustin and Dirk grew up as well, and they didn't roll to go to college at the end of their teenagehood, so they just grew up and they decided to move in together. As you can see, they didn't move that far away from their original house, so they visited pretty often. Because I wouldn't find an excuse to not visit your parents when you live literally 2 minutes away from them. Disrespectful. Well, there's no Dustin anymore here, and we'll get to the bottom of this in a few seconds. But this is only the Dreamer's house now. Dustin and Dirk lived for pretty much their whole adulthood together. They split up like 2 or 3 days before becoming an eldest. I said split up like they were together. They were not together. They fought of each other like brothers, even though they were not blood related. They just did everything together, and Dirk was actually the reason why Dustin quit his criminal career, because Dirk is actually first worked in a law, because I couldn't find the business career for him. So he was a lawyer, and he was like, listen, do you really need to be a criminal? Like, you can just start over. I promise you, you will live a better life. And Dustin really thought about it, and he eventually actually quit his criminal career and found a job in architecture. So he became an architect, and he did pretty well in his job because, you know, at first he started like just a manual laborer, let's say, just helping around the constructions here and there, but eventually he got a lot of promotions and got a lot of money. And eventually Dirk as well found an opening in the business career, so he worked really hard, as you can see with his skills, and he reached a top of his career. So he's now a business tycoon. He married this lovely student Tony. So this is Mary Dreamer. I don't remember exactly how they met, but I think it was through the blind dating. You know, when someone calls you and like, hey, I know this person, I think you two would be perfect together. And I was like, you know what? Go ahead, just give me her number. And Mary appeared. I really loved her. She is gorgeous. She's incredibly gorgeous. They don't have the toppest chemistry together. Also, he has a chemistry with Renata, which is kind of weird. But you know what? Not all couples have to be like super perfect together, like match made in heaven. They are match made in heaven, but for me, you know? And while Dirk was busy maintaining his love life, Dustin didn't actually fall behind. One day, when they went out of food, Dustin ordered a delivery of groceries to their door, and none other than Marilena Hamilton appeared. And it was a love at first sight for Dustin. Marilena was like, I'm doing my job, goodbye. But in reality, she was interested just as much as Dustin, so they ended up being together. And shortly after, Dirk and Mary married first, and then Dustin and Marilena married as well. So there are now 2 couples living in the same house, and not really long time after, Mary fell pregnant. And I wasn't planning on making them babies so soon, but what happened, and they welcomed their firstborn daughter, Devon. And this is Devon. She is, oh my god. At first I thought she looks exactly like Dirk, but then I just looked into her and she got a face shape of Mary, but the rest, except for hair color, is from Dirk. And I am in love with her. Also, she has a double chemistry with Calvin, which is kind of weird as well. Devon was a perfect practice subject for Dustin and Marilena before they had their own kid, Oliver. And not long after Dirk and Mary had their second child, Drake. He is in a toilet right now, but he's technically not in a toilet. And Drake looks a lot like Mary, but he got eye color and hair color from Dirk, which is kind of fun. He's a cute looking. And here are their personalities. This is Drake. He is Capricorn and he's a family sim. Devon is also Capricorn and she's also a family sim. I thought the family aspiration would fit them perfectly because I feel like Dirk is a family guy and they would like to have a perfect family like their father did. Although Dirk is a Virgo, he's fortune sim for some reason. And I think he got a, family secondary aspiration. And when life seemed absolutely perfect for those families, everything went downhill after Dustin attended Angela's wedding. The aftermath of this situation with the wedding was so drastic. It touched not one, not two, but three families, because Dustin now lives in this house. Everyone is at work. Okay, give me a second. No, we're not meeting Dustin. Not just yet. So we are now in the second Goth's household. This is Angela and Alexander Goths. They are married now. I know they have a little bit of a age difference, but it's not that big. Let's start from the beginning, I guess. Angela and Lily went to college together, and while they were in college, Alexander grew up to a teenager. So when they finally graduated, Alexander went to the college, so they didn't really see each other that much. I would say they didn't even see each other at all. But once Alexander came back from university, Angela saw him as a young, grown man and had a thought bubble with his portrait with hearts, and I was like, I tried to say something. And yes, they also don't have the toppest chemistry, but they have a chemistry. It says a lot to me. Angela actually lived in her own house and threw a party, like a move-in party, and she decided to invite Alex. They hooked up, and at that period of time they had one bolt. They hooked up with a chance of getting pregnant for one bolt. Also, Alexander is a bisexual. After they hooked up, everything just was not really certain for them. Like, do they like each other, or it's just, you know, hormones or attraction? They didn't really start dating right away. They decided to take it slow, and eventually Alexander won her by giving a lot of gifts, affection, attention, love. They moved in together to this house and married. But there was a little problem. Because Angela is a bit older than Alexander, they couldn't conceive a baby for a really long time. So I thought, you know what? They could adopt. Adoption is always an option. They adopted a wonderful baby boy, Ander Goth. Ander was such a beautiful, such a smart, brilliant boy. And you won't believe it, but right day after they got Ander, Angela fell pregnant and gave birth to River Goth. And this is River. He looks a lot like Alex, but he also looks a lot like Angela. Basically, he's a perfect mix of both of them, because look at this nose. He got nose of Alexander, but the position of it is typical Pleasant Sisters nose, if you ever seen their nose. River is currently dating Marcia, and yes, they already live together, even though River just became an adult like a day ago. That's because they're pretty much been high school sweethearts for really long time, since they were like early teenagers. Ander unfortunately passed away in a previous round. He was crushed by a satellite when he was watching the sky, and it happened like at 3 a.m. or something like that, so everyone was pretty much asleep and I couldn't do anything. Like, I was doing speed 3 as usual, and when he was crushed it was too late to wake up anyone and save him, so he died, and I don't resurrect him. So River now is the only child of Angela and Alex, and I guess it's fine. You know, this is the first premature death in my Pleasantview, so yeah. And also, this is River's personality. As you can see, he's very neat and very grouchy. A lot of Sims in my Pleasantview are grouchy. People haven't seen newspapers for years because they keep stealing it from each other. And we're pretty much done with this household. Also, look at this cute picture I took a while ago. Look at them. Aww. And we're now in the original Goth's household, and where do I start? I guess from the beginning again. So Cassandra didn't marry Don because he ghosted her at the altar, and when that happened, Cassandra also found out that she's pregnant from Don, and she gave birth to twin babies. So this is Victoria. She looks a lot like Don, and Katerina. She looks a lot like Cassandra. And we all know that Cassandra have a best friend in the face of Mary Sue Pleasant. So she and Mary Sue got really close together after Mary Sue divorced and started dating. When they started dating romantically, it was like something new to them both. Because Don is a cheating scumbag. Daniel is a cheating scumbag. Daniel and Don should be together, if I would be honest. But unfortunately, both of them are straight in my Pleasantview. So no hoeing together. So yeah, Cassandra and Mary Sue got together. They married and adopted a son, Christopher. Hello. This is Christopher. He's gay and I can't find any sort of guy for him yet, but we'll think about it. He's still young, so it's not that bad. Also, here's girls' personalities. So this is Katerina, and she's also super grouchy, as you can see. And Victoria, she's also kind of grouchy. I told you everyone is grouchy. So now about the Angela's wedding. Victoria was the one Dustin met at Angela's wedding, and he cheated on Marilena with Victoria. Well, he cheated not on Angela's wedding. Let's be honest. But at first, when Victoria met Dustin, she was trying to pursue him, let's say, and he was like, "Listen, I'm married," and all that jazz. But eventually, he kind of like melted, I guess, and it was kind of a backstabbing move from Victoria, considering she's a family sim, and they started their affair because, as you can see, they don't live that far from each other. So yeah, she was a pretty open guest. Marilena had no idea what was going on between those two. So eventually, when Oliver already was a child, Marilena busted them and she divorced Dustin. So he had to quickly move out of their shared with Dirk house to the Goth's house. And while this whole commotion soap opera was going on, Victoria also found out she was pregnant. And it was on purpose. Listen, I was like, why not add more drama to the drama? Make double drama. So she had Sadie Goth. This is Sadie. She looks a lot like Dustin, but she kind of have like nose and eye shape of Victoria. So Dustin and Victoria are now married and live together as a whole family with their daughter. And no, Dustin is not on speaking terms with Oliver. This is kind of like one-sided relationship. Dustin tries to contact him, but Oliver holds like this grudge on his father that he cheated on his wife and like abandoned them. He had a choice to not cheat on Marilena with Victoria, but he made his choice and Oliver wasn't happy with it. He was like very anxious about it actually. That scarred him a lot and he doesn't speak with his father. We are now moving on Katerina. Katerina has more subtle, let's say, quiet life, though she's a witch. And she befriended atrociously evil witch, and at first she was evil witch, but then she was like, why be evil when you can master both good and bad? So she became a neutral witch and she practiced her magic on the rooftop of their house. She's not as interested in love life as her twin sister, but she had some flinks, let's say, with people. And one of them is Remington Harris, the maid that used to clean their house. Here is he. So they had a thing. They have only one bolt, but they kind of started doing things on their own will, like without my help, thanks to ACR. And they hooked up one day and she gave birth to Eleanor. And Eleanor is beautiful. I cannot wait to see her grow up. She has a lot of Remington in her and his ears, but she is so cute. She got Katerina's nose and I can't. And here's the thing. Katerina and Victoria both didn't really know about their father. Cassandra never really told them about him. So one day, Katerina, let's say through magic, discovered her family ties and she learned that her father is Don Lothario and that they in fact have a stepbrother who used to know Don, his father, his whole life. So Katerina thought that it would be a good idea to meet Caleb and ask him about their father, because she and Victoria never really had a chance to meet him. We'll learn what came out of this whole meeting in a few moments. Now we are moving on to the next, thank God, and last Goth household. because Mortimer, in fact, married Dina in my Pleasantview, and they lived happily together. And there was a lot more involved other than gold digging. Hello there. We all know this house. Mortimer and Dina lived here for their whole lives. Well, until Mortimer died, because, you know, how quickly he dies. When you start playing Pleasantview, not that soon after the wedding, they had the one and only kid, Cassandra Goth. This is Caitlin, and as you can see, she's a split copy of Dina. But if you look closely, you can see that she got a lot of Mortimer in her as well, aside from Quinton. And Caitlin is gay. She's married to Drew. They had Caitlin, and shortly after, when she grew up to a child, Mortimer unfortunately passed away. And here's the thing. Dina never remarried after Mortimer died, nor she had any kind of flings or affairs while being married to Mortimer, because she fell in love with Mortimer, genuinely. She got what she wanted, the fortune, but she also fell in love, because after all those years, while she was trying to seduce him, let's say, she realized that she didn't really mind him being her husband, and she was really sad as Caitlin when Mortimer passed away. And Mortimer actually saw that Dina loved him, and he was happy to share his fortune with loved ones and his family. So after he died, they inherited a lot of money from him, and that's that. Surprise, surprise! Even though Dina had like shit ton of money to provide herself a peaceful elderhood and her daughter a peaceful elderhood, she still worked in a athletics career, and Dina is a drop-dead lazy ass. And I don't know why my Dina rolled a lifetime want to be in athletics career, but she did. So she worked in an athletics career because she was extremely lazy. She didn't like that job really much, but it is what it is. I made her retire in the end. Caitlin works in a gaming career because she's a pleasure sim, and you know, she's also a secondary romance, so she is having literal affairs behind Drew's back. And I didn't want to do that, honestly, but sometimes she rolls a want, like have 3 lovers at once, and I have to satisfy it because I play once based. So yeah, but afterwards she kind of regrets what she does and tells like, listen, let's never see each other again. So that's why she doesn't have crushes on anyone aside from Drew. Also, she and Renata are besties, as well with Miguel. Miguel is Nina's son, and Drew. They were like a couple of friends, like 4 friends, because when Renata was a child, she brought Caitlin from school to her house and they became friends. And then Renata met Miguel at Caitlin's house because they're cousins, and then they met Drew and they became super close to each other. They're still best friends to this day. They gather for some meetings and all that jazz. They had plenty of parties together when they were teenagers. So that's friendship goals. I think I pretty much covered everything with Caitlin. Also, this is her personality. As you can see, she's also just a little bit teeny tiny bit grouchy. And Drew and Caitlin had 2 children, and none of them was planned, believe it or not. So at first they had Stefan. Stefan was an unexpected pregnancy. I don't know what is going on with my ACR, but every time those 2 woohoo, Drew and Caitlin, I don't know, ACR just magically makes them feel pregnant. And I was like, you live in a house with 2 bedrooms. How many kids are you planning to have? They have no space, and I wasn't planning on having them so many kids and so soon. So regardless of that, Stefan and Teresa were born 1 day apart from each other. Stefan is like 3 days before becoming an adult, and Teresa is 4, so you can consider them twins, but not really. Imagine that they were born like 12 hours apart from each other. So this is Stefan. He looks just like a split copy of Caitlin, as you can see, with eye color of Drew, but that's fine, I guess. I don't mind him looking a lot like his mom. And this is Teresa. She is incredibly gorgeous. She looks like a modified first facetum plate, but a lot modified. She's super beautiful. I love how she mixed. And she is also dating Blake Pleasant, Lilith's son. We'll get to that in a few moments. And Stefan is a bisexual. He's a romance sim, and he's currently dating this Ricky guy. They're not like officially together. And here are their personalities. As you can see, Stefan is also just a little bit grouchy. And Teresa is super nice. Actually, at first I wanted her to be a woman sim as well, but then I looked into her personality and I was like, there's no way a sim this nice can be a woman sim, so I made her pleasure, just like her mama. So she's pleasure and he's romance. And that's pretty much it with the last Goth's household. I didn't change the house. I think I made it like one tile bigger, but you can't really notice it even. So also Michael's urn is not here anymore because I was sick of this man haunting this lot, scaring the shit out of my Sims because he's not relevant to this family anymore, and I moved him to the graveyard next to Bella. Yes, Bella was alive in my Pleasantview. We will get to this in a few moments as well. Since we covered Dina's life, it would be logical to move on to Nina now. They actually live pretty close together. And there lives Miguel with Renata, as you have probably guessed from her name popping up and last name Caliente. Welcome to the new Caliente house. So this is where Nina used to live for rest of her life, let's say. After Dina and Mortimer got married, Dina was like, listen Nina, maybe you will have to find your own place because we don't have that much of a space to share anymore. And Nina was like, yeah, you know, I'll think about it. So she found a job in the music career and she did pretty well, but shortly after she got fired. And while she had pretty much free time, she and Daniel hooked up. They just met each other at some point. After divorce, Daniel bought this little condo, which is not little anymore. It's a full-on house, and moved in here. And after he started seeing Nina, Nina was like venting to him about how Dina is trying to get rid of her from their own house. Well, she wasn't really trying to get rid of her. She was politely telling her sister that it would be better if she found her own place, which is understandable because Dina was in the middle of creating her own family and there wasn't that much of a space to do that. Daniel kindly offered her to move in with him and Nina accepted. So she moved in, and almost shortly after, she accidentally fell pregnant and they had little Miguel. And Miguel looks a lot like Nina and some of the Daniel features because, I don't know, they both gingers with green eyes. You can't really tell which one is from who. Face-wise, he looks a lot like Nina. And this is my favorite Renata Broke, my unborn baby Broke. And you may notice a bit of a age difference between them, but that's because Renata is a lot older than rest of the group. So the story behind this is when they were teenagers, when Miguel first met Renata, he fell in love instantly with her. This was like a love from first sight for him. Renata didn't really feel the same. Plot twist, she did feel the same. They have the toughest chemistry with each other, except for Miguel, because he met this girl in the dorms when he was in the college, but it doesn't really matter. So they have the toughest chemistry, and because Renata was a bit older, she wasn't like really sure she wants this relationship, or that she wants to be with Miguel. But almost at the edge of her teenagehood, when they were gathering around together at the park, she and Miguel were left alone. All of a sudden, Renata confessed her feelings to Miguel and they shared their first kiss together. Instantly, Renata regretted her actions and she said that they can't be together after all. So they parted ways, and literally the same day or day later she became an adult. So they didn't see each other that much. I mean, they did see each other, but they weren't the same, let's say. And when Miguel grew up, like other members of the group went to college, because he didn't really want to go to college, but suddenly, like 3 hours before becoming an adult, he rolled the want to go to college, and I had to send him to college. And this is where he met Kaylin Langerak, first woman in his life, let's say, his first woohoo, his first like experience in life. And I thought that maybe he and Kaylin will be together after all. So after he graduated college, he came back to Pleasantview, moved in back with his family, and at one of the parties that Caitlin and Drew threw at their house, met Renata once again, and they fucking woohoo in a hot tub almost immediately. And I was like, boy, you have to make a choice now. You can't be playing two women at once. That's just dirty. So that happened. I decided to resolve this conflict, let's say, with a pretty stupid method. Invited all three of them, Miguel, Renata, and Kaylin, to a community lot. And I thought, whoever he decides to flirt with first, will be his forever. He flirted with Renata. Kellen saw it, went mad, slapped the shit out of him. So Miguel made a decision to be with Renata. And Renata, after all those years, decided that maybe she and Miguel are actually meant to be. So sometime later, they married and had their first kid, Zaid, complete copy of Miguel, with Renata's colors, except for eye color. He's like exactly the same as Miguel. Sometime later, they had, oh, what's with the face? Maeve. She is not a split copy of Miguel, thank God, but she looks a lot like Renata, though she got some features from Miguel, so I'm partially satisfied with the result, let's say, but not completely. I'm thinking about making them third baby, but it's still work in progress. I'm just thinking about it, okay? Also, I forgot to say that Nina and Daniel weren't married ever. They weren't even partners to begin with. They were, living together and co-parenting Miguel because, well, it was their responsibility, their mutual responsibility. They had an open relationship quotes. They weren't actually together. Sometimes they brought other love interests in their house, but it wasn't when one or other was in the house, because respect first of all, and second because Miguel mostly was at home when he wasn't at school. So yeah, occasionally they hooked up with other people, sometimes with each other. So they weren't the most loyal people on earth. At least they were trusting each other with it and were honest. So yeah, so here is Miguel's personality. Here's Renata's personality. She's also super grouchy, as you can see. Here's Zaid, and here's little Maeve. And that's pretty much it with Calientes for now. Hello! We are now in the last Broke's household, because I told you I have a lot of Brokes. They recently moved in the original Broke's trailer house, which is not really a trailer house anymore. I didn't expand it really. It all stayed the same. I just bought the new furniture for them. So this is Beau's house and his husband Phil. Towny Phil, oh, what's his name? I would never remember it, but I will show you the photo on the screen if I found his name. Yeah, Beau is gay in my Pleasantview and is a scientist. He's a knowledge sim. He and Phil only recently became an elders. They met at work. As you can see, they are co-workers. I couldn't find double bolter for a Beau for a long time, and when I saw that he brought Phil from his work, I was like, let's check him out. It turns out they have chemistry. And I was super happy. As you can see, he's literally the only person he has chemistry with. So I was super happy to finally have a significant other for Beau. They married. It wasn't a very fast event to happen, because at first Phil autonomously proposed to Beau and Beau said no. And that was so embarrassing. So I was like, okay boys, let's not rush things, okay? So let's just get to know each other a little bit better. They dated for a bit longer, and then Beau proposed to Phil and he said yes. They married and moved in together. So here's the thing. Beau and Phil are one of my LGBTQ plus couples that had baby natural way. That means that one of them gave birth. So yeah, Phil got pregnant and he had a C-section, and he gave birth to Adeline, or shortly Ada for everyone. She's super cute, looks a lot like Phil, but she got some Beau in her as well. And also she's ginger for some reason. I don't know, she was born ginger, and it's still a mystery for me from who she got that. Grandparents, great-grandparents was to do with it, but yeah, she got ginger hair. And that's pretty much it with Beau's life. There is not much, but it is what it is. I quite enjoy playing with him because he's, sometimes you play with Sims and you get that vibe, like they're calm and not that hectic as their siblings. So yeah, here's his personality, and I think his personality is exactly the same as the Beau in your Pleasantview. And this is Ada's personality. She is very outgoing, and she's a family sim. I wanted to make her popularity, but then just decided not to because I have a lot of popularity sims in my Pleasantview. So yeah, we are now in the Pleasant household. And half of them are not pleasant anymore because Lilith married Ivy Kapoor. But before that, let's run the story from the beginning. So as you know, Lilith went to college with Angela. and she had a blast there. You'd think that Lilith would be the one who didn't do all the homework and all that stuff, but no, she was actually studying really hard. She got excellent grades and graduated with honors. Throughout the college, Lilith also realized that she is in fact a bisexual, so she had a lot of fun with college dormies. Lilith graduated, went back to the Pleasantview, but nor Lilith or Angela moved back into their original house because it was kind of abandoned now when their mother lived with the Goths now with Cassandra, and their father lived with Nina and his new kid. So, and Lilith rented an apartment in the apartment complex, the only apartment complex in Pleasantview. Changed her looks once again, went blonde, and just, lived a life freely as she wanted to be. Because if you ever read Lilith's bio, you can kind of get that she had it harder than her twin sister. So, it wasn't really fair. I think it's kind of sucky, to be honest, because if you are playing favorites with your own kids, it's bad parenting. So I kind of have a headcanon that Lilith is like, go big or go home. She did get big, really big. She's a rock god. She is the only musician in the Pleasantview. Now, before it was both Daniel and Nina, she reached top of her career before she even reached half of her adulthood, and that's pretty much an achievement, I can say. And she reached top of her career and gained success before her sister did, and that was a hell of an achievement for her. Because, even though they didn't see each other anymore, and she still had like this grudge that parents loved Angela more than Lilith, so she was like super happy. Look at this hot grandma. Woo! While Lilith was working on her career, she also had some flings here and there with different people. So one day she went to the restaurant in the Pleasantview. She met Ivy Kapoor. Let me show you which Ivy Kapoor I'm talking about. So she met Ivy, and all of a sudden Ivy just pulled her closer and kissed. And I was like, okay, I like that, let's go. So they kind of started dating each other. Kind of because firstly, for the majority of the time, they weren't like together. They were partners, but they didn't have a label, as Lilith called it. So they lived together, rented an apartment, then a little bit bigger apartment as Lilith's success grew, and after she and Ivy both got pretty higher in their career, I decided that it's probably time to make them a child. So they also had a child naturally, and their firstborn was Ramona Pleasant. So this is Ramona, and she's a queen. She's my queen. Look at her. She is incredible, gorgeous, fantastic, absolutely breathtaking. She works in entertainment, and she graduated from college just recently. So she's a romance sim, and also she's a bisexual. She had some flings already because she's a queen. And their second child, Blake Pleasant. He got a little bit of a situation going on, but that's okay. Unfortunately, he got Lilith's nose, but it's okay. If he gonna have a daughter, that's gonna be great, because I love how Pleasant's nose looks on girls. That's my opinion, okay? And he's a bit of a cheater, because as you can see, he's dating Teresa, but also he has a thing going on with Safi Miguel that's a bit dirty, if you can ask me. Yeah, and this little girl here is Ramona's child. Even though Ramona is like super young, she had an oopsie with one of her flings with a college dormie. Let me see her. This one, Jenny Desperate. Jenny Desperate. I really liked Jenny Desperate, and this was a oopsie made on purpose, let's say, because I really wanted their child to inherit Jenny's eye shape, and Harley was born with Jenny's eye shape. You have no idea how many times I had to go back to neighborhood view, because each time baby wasn't just meeting my expectations. So after like 30 times of living back and forth, Harley was born. Yeah, that was hell of a ride, if you can ask me. I never really thought that Ivy and Lilith were gonna get married, because I play one space and none of them ever ever got one to get married, because as you can see, Lilith is a popularity sim, but she also has secondary fortune. We all know how strong fortune aspiration is. So all the time she just rolled one to buy expensive shit and all that stuff. Ivy, I think, is, yeah, she is secondary family, but even that didn't help. So after Ivy became an elder, she suddenly rolled a one to get married, and I was like, finally! So on the last day of Lilith's adulthood, they married, and it was a beautiful wedding. I was so happy. I think I was happier than they were. They are now Lilith and I Kapoors. And this is pretty much it. Also, here's their personalities. Here's Ramona. She's super sloppy but super nice. And you would say, why did you make her a romance sim if she's super nice? Well, I needed a romance sim in my Pleasantview aside from Stefan, so she's a romance sim. And you know, I look at her and she gives me a player vibes. You know, she's like walks on the street and everyone just snaps their neck turning back to look at her. So, and this is Blake's personality, and also super sloppy, just like Mama's. And this is Harley. Also, when it comes to the Pleasant sisters and Miguel, they are not on speaking terms. Lilith visited him once when he was a child because Daniel brought her from work as a co-worker. But yeah, that was one time, and basically they don't talk because, you know, she doesn't really found out her father's doings, nor mother's. But she and Mary Sue kinda met each other at some point because Mary Sue was visiting her, despite the fact that they weren't seeing each other that much and talking. She still kinda felt a bit guilty because Lilith is her child, and Lilith was kinda, you know, okay with it, but she never really wanted to see her father ever again. Unlike Angela. Angela actually visited him and Nina a few times, and both Lilith and Mary Sue never understood why she did that, because he's kinda a douchebag. So yeah, this is Pleasant Family. Oh, everyone, we are now entering my favorite zone. Alien zone. You probably noticed this guy appeared in some of the relationship panels already. Well, this is Bella's son. Well, we all know the story that Bella was abducted 20-something years ago. After that, she came back with all of the memories and all of that restored. She and Mortimer decided that a lot of time have passed, unfortunately, for them to be back together, especially when Mortimer decided to move on and live with Dina. So he was like, I love you, but not in a way that we used to be in love in the past. When they divorced, he gifted Bella this trailer right across the street from Broke's household. So this is where Bella used to live. She never really knew why aliens brought her back, because she was in a capture for really long time. And believe me, not all aliens are this bad. She was just unlucky and crossroads with very sinister scientist, let's say. So after Bella came back to Pleasantview, she didn't really struggle to build her life back from scratch. She realized she's a pansexual, so she had a lot of relationships after she and Mortimer divorced. Because if you didn't know, Bella is actually a romance sim. So yeah, this happened. And for some time she lived pretty quietly here in this trailer, but one night she got abducted. Thought there is no way I'm coming back there in the captive. But to her surprise, they brought her back a few hours later. She didn't know what was that, but she did know something was up. And that something was she got broked. Birthed an alien baby, and she named him Michael Bachelor. This is Michael. Hello. He is, oh my god, if you think that Renata Broke is my favorite, no, you are wrong. This guy right here is my favorite. And oh my god, Michael, I don't know, he kind of blessed and ruined Bella's life at the same time, because she wanted to be a parent once again, but she didn't want to have aliens in her life. That's the problem. She couldn't blame an innocent baby on what those sinister aliens did. So she loved and raised Michael just like any other parents would raise their own kids. And it seems like life was getting back on its track for Bella, she met Dagmar, the male lady, and they really hit off pretty quickly. They had pretty bold chemistry, and even though they both were romance sims, I decided that she and Dagmar could settle in, but they could be just partners. They don't have to be like together. So Dagmar moved in with Bella, and one night when everything was seemingly peaceful, Bella got abducted again. And it was an unexpected abduction. I didn't plan on making her another alien babies, but it happened, so let's go. Let's do it. So she gave birth to Yocasta, and Yocasta was the reason Dagmar started questioning Bella, like, what the hell is this? Like, why didn't you tell me that you were a alien test subject for pregnancy and all that stuff? So she was mad that Bella kept it a secret, and Bella didn't really keep it a secret. She didn't thought it would be necessary to tell because she didn't know she would be abducted again and all that stuff. So they kind of argued a lot about that, and for young Yocasta, it was very anxious. So Michael helped his little sister through these tough times a lot. Michael with Yocasta are very close. They are inseparable. You will never find siblings like this in Pleasantview amongst people. So those fights were going on for pretty much a long time. So in the end, Bella and Dagmar decided that they weren't meant to be together, even though they were together at the beginning. So they decided to split up, and Dagmar moved out. It was very sad for Michael and Yocasta because she was like a parent figure for them as well as Bella. Bella was now raising 2 children alone. Well, Michael at this point was a teenager, so he helped his mother with Yocasta while she was at work trying to provide. And also, don't look at this amount of money. They don't have this much money. It's, I don't know, what is this? I notice it happens sometimes when I roll hood checkers, so really don't mind. They have 6,000 max, I swear. And this is Yocasta up close. She is very much Bella, but she is also very much alien. And she is also a romance sim, just like her mama. And she also had some flings. What the fuck? Well, this isn't supposed to be like this. Okay, I will fix it. They probably fell in love at community lock or something like that. So, Yocasta is a romance sim, and she also seeing Ramona right now. But before we move on to Yocasta, we'll finish up with Bella. So after Bella and Dagmar broke up, Bella shortly after aged up to an elder, but she didn't really stop her romantic adventures, just kept on seeing other people and was pretty much happy with the rest of her life and passed away happily as an elder. Now we can finally move on to Michael. As you can see, Michael is no longer bachelor, he is Lothario, because he and Caleb actually married and Caleb is expecting their kid. Yes, in my headcanon, aliens can get humans pregnant because why the fuck not? So Michael is an alien bisexual king, and listen, those two are my favorite couple in the Pleasantview. It's just, I gotta tell you this. You know, I sometimes wanted to tell about my Pleasantview solely for the reason of those two existing. Like, I wanted to tell their story to you because it's so fucking cool. So Caleb is actually just a little bit older than Michael for like a few days, but let's pretend that it's a few years, as in realities of Sims world. And Michael met Caleb at the Woodland Park when they were teenagers. They hit off pretty quickly. At first it was just friendship, you know. They hang around together, had a lot of fun, partying and all that stuff. But one day, Michael confessed his feelings to Caleb, and Caleb accepted them. And they shared first kiss, and it was all autonomously by ACR. I was like, Michael, what is this, Michael? I forgot he was a bisexual, and Caleb is also a bisexual, so it was such a surprise for me. I was literally shocked. So they formed a couple, and they've been pretty much high school sweethearts up until they became adults. And that's when shit happened, because Caleb is the son of Don Lothario, and we all know that Don Lothario is a cheating scumbag. He kind of had this a little bit of an influence on his son, let's say. Caleb doesn't have tendencies to be a romancing. He's a pleasure, and his secondary is actually family. so we all know where he got those ideas from. And I have an arcade in my Pleasantview, okay, where only teenagers can visit, thanks to Visitor Patroller. When Yocasta was a teenager, she saw Caleb hanging around with another guy, so no big deal, they're just friends. And suddenly they kissed. And she was like, oh shit, I have to tell Michael that his boyfriend is cheating on him. I was like, okay, maybe Caleb can explain the shit, because technically Ricky kissed Caleb and not Caleb, but he didn't, you know, pretend like he didn't like it, at least. That was problematic. And it didn't stop on this. They went to the photo booth and woohooed, and there is no way you can recover from that. So it was dick move from Caleb. Let's all agree on it. Yocasta went back home, and unfortunately, exactly at the same day, Bella passed away. So Yocasta was torn apart, because on one hand, her brother was now dating a cheater, and on the other hand, their mother just passed away, and she didn't want to break her brother's heart even more than it's already broken. So she decided that she would wait a little bit. Maybe Caleb will just tell the truth himself, but he didn't, because he knew what he done wasn't really great. And Yocasta called him and said, you gotta tell my brother what you did, because I saw what you did. And Caleb agreed with it. He felt really guilty, really bad to what happened, because he genuinely loves Michael. So they met up and Caleb told him the truth. Michael was really mad. He realized that he can't trust this person, so they broke up. And it was the hardest breakup on earth. In the whole history of Pleasantview, it was hard for me, because those two genuinely loved each other but had to separate ways because of one stupid ass mistake. So this was how their mutual story ended. After their breakup, it took pretty much a while for Michael to get back on track, and he really decided to focus on work and his own family. So he found a job in the science career. So he's a scientist. He's not the toppest one. I don't work on his skills that much. He just found a job that would suit him as an alien, and he just works there to provide for his family. And as I said, don't look at this amount of money. It's not true. They have 6,000 max. And he also started spending a lot more time with Yocasta than he did before. I mean, I said they were inseparable, but you know, he had a boyfriend, so he had to manage between both of them. And now, when he doesn't have a boyfriend, he had all of this time for work and his little sister. So Yocasta realized that she has a crush on her classmate Tosha Go, and she invited her on a date. She asked Michael to accompany her, let's say, and help her out. She started flirting with Tosha, and Tosha accepted those flirtings, so that was fun. And exactly at the same evening, in the same lounge, Michael met Caleb, but of course they had to pretend like they didn't see each other, although they saw each other. So yeah, it was a bit awkward, but it is what it is. So time passed and Yocasta became an adult. So she's now an independent young lady. Yocasta doesn't work. She's just, you know, having fun. I mean, it doesn't really bother Michael that she doesn't work or something like that, because he pretty much makes all the money in the house. So yeah, she's just hanging around, meeting people, dating people, and all of that. And one day, Michael met Marissa Bennett. They don't have the toppest chemistry, they only have one bolt, but they kind of, you know, hit off autonomously. And I was like, you know, Marissa seems like a good person, so they could be together. And I pretty much was like sure that he and Marissa would be together, they would have kids. But in the back of my head, I heard this little voice telling me maybe you can forgive Caleb and they could get back together. So yeah, Caleb and Michael broke up in 6th round, and Michael met Marissa in 7th. They dated for 2 rounds, 7 and 8, and Michael still occasionally saw Caleb sometimes, because Pleasantview is not that big of a town, but they didn't talk at all. At some point they would like say hi to each other, and that's basically it. Nothing really happened between them. And one day Michael and Caleb met at the grocery store, and Michael at that time was with Marissa, so Caleb saw them. And before I tell you what happened next, I need to move on to the Lotharios side of the story and tell you about Don's life, what he's been up to all those years. Don pretty much lived for a while in his little condo, this one, and he dated a lot women in his life, and sometimes he even got busted by them because, as I said, Pleasantview is not that big of a town. Second, he wasn't really secretive about it or discreet, so I would say he was too proud to hide that he was a player. One day he met a security guard from his job, Carol, and don't mind that she's wearing a police uniform. I had got on that they met at work in the medical facility that he used to work for. First of all, can we talk who gave Don Lothario, himbo, a medical license? Okay, this is irrelevant to the story. So after Don met Carol, you would think that she changed his life, he changed his ways, and yada yada yada. No, you're wrong. Because Carol, in fact, is a romance sim just as much as Don. They started seeing each other a lot more than they used to see their other love interests. And sometime later, Don, for some unknown reason, proposed to Carol, and she said yes. For both of them, it was a negative memory, of course. You know how romance sims sometimes roll a 1 to get engaged when you go on a date? I play once based, and who am I to disagree? After some time and some hookups later, Carol realized that she's pregnant, and she was determined that the father of the baby is Don. But when she told him, Don was really mad because he knew that she was seeing other people, he was seeing other people, and he was like, "Are you sure this baby is my baby? Because there's a possibility that it can be someone else." But she was really sure, and she said, "Just trust me, okay?" He didn't really trust her, but okay, he decided that the least garbage thing he can do in his life, leave pregnant with his baby woman alone. So he invited Carol to live with him. She moved in, and shortly after birth, Caleb Lothario. At first, Don was really skeptic, like, yeah, baby got green eyes, but she could have hooked up with someone with green eyes, so he was still not really convinced that Caleb is his baby. And as Caleb grew, Don kind of saw the resemblance, because even when Caleb was a toddler, it was pretty obvious his father is Don. So he kind of accepted that he's a daddy now, because as I said before, he didn't really know that he had twins with Cassandra, because Cassandra never told him or anyone babies are from. But some people might have had speculations because she's been with Don for a while. So now Don Lothario is engaged daddy, and if you think that Caleb somehow changed Don's life, you're wrong again, because Don didn't change at all. Some people expected Carol and Don to change with the baby in the house, but they still hook up with other people, with each other and all of that. I mean, they weren't bad parents, they were good parents for Caleb. They raised him good, they gave everything, worked hard for his future, but they never gave him like a normal family relationship everyone was expecting them to give him. When Caleb finally became an adult, both Carol and Don were already at the edge of their elderhood, because, well, they had Caleb pretty much later in their lives, and it was an accident. So Caleb was still relevantly pretty young when both of his parents died, and he was really broken. He just broke up with the love of his life, and then his father passed away. And shortly after, like 3 days later, Carol passed away as well. Caleb wasn't really in the right state of mind for a really long time. He fell in a depression after he lost everything he loved. He was just completely broken to pieces. And at this point of his life, he met Katerina. As I told you, she, through magic quotes, found Caleb to ask him about Don and all of that. So Katerina met him when he was miserable. He was really miserable, and Katerina saw that he wasn't really in the right state of mind. She decided for Caleb it would be for the best to move in with the Goths. So he moved in. He lived with the Goths for a whole eighth round, and that was an experience. As you can see, he doesn't have that much of a relationship with Katerina, but he has a good relationship with Victoria, because Victoria is just like that. She's always super nice, super cheerful, and everyone loves her, and Caleb wasn't an exception. He just quickly befriended her. And when he pretty much lived for a few years in their house, he met Michael in a grocery store, and he saw that Michael was with Marissa. And at this point, pretty much the whole town knew that Caleb lost all of his parents and he was dealing with a major depression now. Michael heard about it as well, and they broke up, maybe they weren't together anymore, but they still had a connection. And when Michael saw Caleb, he hugged him really tight and said, "I'm sorry." And it kind of meant that he was sorry for them not being close to help out each other at the tough times. He was sorry everything happened to Caleb. He was sorry they didn't happen. So you can interpret those words in many things. So Caleb was feeling a lot better after he got support from his relatives and his ex-best friend. After he and Michael met up, at first they were just greeting each other when they met, but after that it just grew to small chats and then just full-on conversations, and they were catching on what they've been up to all those years. There was the moment when Michael realized he actually forgave Caleb a really long time ago. Maybe he forgave him even at the moment when they were breaking up. And he thought he still loves Caleb. And honestly, Caleb still loved Michael dearly. He was never over him, and Michael wasn't really over Caleb either. Sudden changes in Michael's mood and behavior didn't pass Marissa unnoticed, so she didn't confront Michael. They were really honest in their relationship. They were trusting each other, so Michael told her himself he has feelings for Caleb. And Marissa said she knows. She pretty much knows because, well, it was kind of obvious. They decided to break up but stayed best friends, and they are best friends to this day. Michael wasn't completely sure Caleb still loved him, and he was at first just testing the grounds. He was pretty much often visiting Caleb at the Goth's house, like to check up on him, that everything is good, if he needs anything, and Caleb was really grateful for such amount of support. Well, the feeling was mutual, of course. So they started dating again, engaged, and just recently got married in the town hall, and now Caleb is carrying Michael's baby. Also, this is Caleb's personality. He is super sloppy and super lazy, so is Michael, but he's only sloppy. And Yokasta, she's lazy and kinda serious, but not really. I wasn't really planning on talking this long about this family, but I just really love them, okay? You have to understand me, because I just love them. And we're now left with one family, but it's one family divided in two, and it's the Burps. And Burps now live in the Pleasant's house. There are currently 7 people living in the Burps household, and it's a lot. So let's start from the beginning yet again. Jennifer and John moved in the Pleasantview in the first round, and they lived their life pretty much boring. I don't know, I don't really like playing with them, plus they look kind of the same. But something happened though. When they just moved in, they didn't even have like money for furniture and all that stuff. I placed down the bed. Those two immediately went down and conceived the baby. And this baby was Evan Burp. He's currently in the middle of digging a hole. As you can see, he's a copy of both Jennifer and John, but he got blonde hair from one of his grandparents. Evan is a family sim, and he doesn't have that much of a personality, I would say. He's just, family guy. He's very neat, super playful, super nice, a bit lazy, and his hobby is cooking. I am actually also in the middle of building them bakery, just a small little bakery where he would sell his things. But as you can see, we don't have that much of money. But now I think maybe we do. And Evan married Jessica. She is one of my townies I made myself. Here is she. And she's a mad scientist. Got a lot of skills. And they had a son, Noah. This is Noah Burp. He is super pretty. I love him so much. He's a perfect mix. I just can't. Also, this is his personality, and I know you saw this. This is Oliver, and he lives with Burps now because Marilena married Leonardo, Evan's brother. This is Leonardo. He just recently came back from the university, and he is working in the show business career. And he also got green eyes from one of the grandparents. Here's the story. After he came back from the university, he befriended Marilena, and they quickly became friends. When she was going through a divorce, she and Leo got really close because he was supporting her, and he was like, "Dump this dude, he doesn't deserve you." And it wasn't just flattery. He genuinely cared about Marilena, and in fact he was kind of a bit crushing on her, and Marilena kind of knew about it. So when she and Dustin finally divorced, Leo tried to get together with Marilena, but because she just recently divorced, she was kind of afraid to start a new relationship. Plus she's much older than Leo, as you can see, and she has a son. but it wasn't really bothering Leo. I would say it wasn't bothering Leo at all. He just really wanted to be with Marilena because he loved her a lot. And eventually Marilena gave up because she fell in love with Leo as well. And they married and had a daughter, Daisy Burp. So yeah, this is Daisy. Now you can see her, and as you can see, she's just a copy of her parents. So about Oliver and Noah. They live together, and they even share a room, but they're not related in any case or sort, because I'm not that kind of person. They are kind of together. They don't even have chemistry, I just noticed. But for some reason, they autonomously got together, and I was like, you know, they could be together. And here is a look at Oliver, because we saw him as a kid. He's a cute looking, but also looks a lot like Dustin, as much as Sadie. His chin is, oh my god, you can kill with this chin. Both Oliver and Noah rolled bisexual, but they are at the moment together, so I don't know when they will find significant others. Also, here are their personalities. He's somewhere active and a bit serious. He's a popularity sim, and Oliver is a family sim. He's very serious, very nice, and somewhere active. And here's Leo's personality. He's a popularity sim as well. I told you I have a lot of popularity sims. And here's little Daisy. She's like in the middle of everything except for her going. The house is still a bit empty because they recently moved in. They bought the house from Angela and Lilith because they inherited it after Mary Sue passed away, and neither Lilith or Angela wanted to live in it. About Evan though, he is not really as faithful as I portrayed him to be, because he kinda had a little bit of a cheaty episode with Katerina, because one day Jessica's friends invited her and Evan to hang out in the downtown. They went to the club, had a few drinks, and Daryl met Katerina, and while Jessica was still upstairs in the hot tub, Evan and Katerina started making out. So I don't know what to do with this really, because I don't know if they're gonna see each other once again, and if Jessica will bust them, then that's okay. If not, then okay. I mean, not all cheating episodes can be discovered. And about Jennifer and John, as I said, they pretty much lived a boring life. Jennifer found a job in intelligence as well as John, so they both worked in intelligence. Jennifer really struggled with her job. One day she got promoted, other day demoted, other day promoted, and so. John was doing well in his job, but he wasn't really fond of it. If you ever read his bio, you would know that he's actually into gardening, so I set up a full-on greenhouse for him where he, well, did the gardening. He was really happy. They died from the old age, and I don't think they even saw their grandchildren. I don't think so, really. Yeah, they died before Noah was born, so... Well, that partially happened because they weren't like super happy when they grew older, and they died pretty quickly. Because if you're unhappy and old, you die really fast in this game. So this is it with this Burp's household. Now we can move on to Lucy. And Lucy lives in an apartment complex, and she's married as well. This is the apartment complex Lucy lives in, and it's originally meant for Strange Town, but I kind of like that apartment units are small and can perfectly fit one sim. And here's Lucy herself. She's an old lady now, and this lovely Mary is her wife. I noticed I have a lot of Marys in my Pleasantview. They only recently got married, like in the last day of previous round. And before that, Lucy adopted Lucas. You get it? Lucas, Lucy, Lucas. He is cute looking, and he had almost no chin, but that's okay. Maybe he'll have a chin when he grows up. And Lucy is a multitasker. She writes novels. She writes pretty much everything, sci-fi, romance, and all that stuff. But at night, she's a criminal. As well as with John, if you ever read Lucy's bio, you could see little Lucy has a knack for getting into trouble. But she's so cute and friendly that most people never notice. And I thought, adult Lucy could get some ideas out of this, you know, like if she can get out of any kind of trouble because she got pretty face and she's just charming. Imagine what she can do with proper lead. So she got in the criminal career, and she is very much high up, and her lifetime want is to earn a lot of money, and I don't think if I can make it, but we'll see. She's definitely gonna reach top of her career, that's for sure. And Lucy pretty much lived her whole life alone when she became an adult, and I wasn't planning on having kids with her or marrying. As you can see, she's just turned into an elder, and I decided she can adopt. So she adopted Lucas, and yeah, Mary is her longtime girlfriend. They were together since Lucy became an adult. That's a lot of time. And I think after Lucy will pass away, I won't be playing with Mary. She will be just a townie yet again, so I will just continue with Lucas. And you are probably wondering, where is Lucas sleeping? He's sleeping right here, okay? Yes, I know, he's sleeping on a couch, but I also sleep on a couch all my life. And Lucy also adopted a cat named Bonkers, just a black cat. He's very cute, and they get along very, very well. Here's that. And that's pretty much it. I told you the burps are not the most entertaining in my Pleasantview. I don't know, even though I gave some of them like interesting aspirations, it's still kind of boring playing with them. I still quite enjoy playing with Lucy though. Out of all burps, she's the least boring because she is kinda have this double life. At day she's a writer, at night she's a criminal. And yeah, this is it. Here is her personality, exactly the same as your Lucy in the Pleasantview. And here's Lucas' personality. With this, we have finally finished the tour of my Pleasantview, because Lucy's family is the last family in my rotational gameplay. Probably gonna be a super duper long video, but I really enjoyed talking about my families, and I hope you enjoyed it as well, because those sims mean a lot to me, especially some of them, like bachelors and lotarios. I know it's silly loving pixel humans, but I do love them quite a lot. If you have like any questions about families and all of that, don't be shy, leave a comment down below. I will try my best to answer, and I will probably make another update on them another 55-ish years later, if you would want to, of course. But even if not, I will still probably make it. This is it for today's video, and if you made it to this point, congrats. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you sometimes. Bye.